And with that, Dr. Cheng.
Okay, all right. So Gabriella, good to see you. And I want to share with you about my research. And this is one of my research projects. And my research mainly focus on in the three different areas. One is cancer research. One is forensic toxicology research, and one is using the pesticide environmental science research. I use the in vitro model, the cell culture, to do the toxicity testing. But today I want to focus on this. It's about marijuana and hemp. Okay, so then the marijuana and hemp, you just probably heard like marijuana has been legalized in New York. Okay, so but we need to know what is the pharmacological effect, what is the toxicological effect of this medicine before you really can use it. So what is this? Okay, the marijuana and hemp actually they come from the same plant species, Cannabis sativa, but they are from different variety. Okay, the hemp mainly is used is for fibers production. So for the carpet, the whole area rock that is from the hemp because they are high fiber content. Marijuana, on the other side, they may have a medicinal purpose. Oh, they also has make you high. Okay, so and then the differences between these two is really by the morphology, the way they look, it's very similar. So only way we can distinguish by the THC content. So the THC is the one compound we know has the psychoactive effect. Okay, and then if this THC concentration is higher than 0.3%, we categorize this, this cannabis product is the marijuana. If lower than 0.3%, we say this is a hemp. Okay, so but before we go ahead to talk about this, the chemical structure, talk about pharmacological effect, there is some terms I want to share with you. The first, cannabis, you probably heard about that. So what is cannabis? Cannabis actually is older product from this plant called a cannabis sativa. And this kind of cannabis is actually a mixture, a compound. And then it's mixed what? The ratio of this mixture is different from how you do extraction, different plant and different composition. But they more by the composition is about 540, more than 540 chemical substance. So it's very, very diverse, but a lot of different compounds in there. And among the cannabis, right, there's one group of substance we call the cannabinoids. Okay, cannabinoids is a name people know in the field because they know inside this group of the cannabinoids there are two major molecules, THC and CBD. Those two are well known because they have very unique psychological effect and also they have the medical effect. Okay, so that's why these two compounds draw a lot of attention uh, from people, from the scientists. And then, so now you want to say, then what is marijuana? So, okay, marijuana actually is cannabis with high content of the THC, with high content of this psychoactive compound. And then, so let me go to next. Okay, so then you can say, oh, is this the cannabis is safe to use or not? No, the answer is not. Okay, because the studies show this cannabis can slow down your response. So when people use the cannabis, then your response to something, response time is longer. So that's why there's a lot of car accidents happen because the people use marijuana. They cannot respond to the accidents immediately. So that's why this happened. And also there is the way that happen for the infant, they have low, for the pregnant woman, they will have a lower birth rate of the baby. Okay. And besides that, they also have people using this marijuana frequently. When they stop, they have withdrawal symptoms. Okay, so this is always is case for the abusive drugs. Abusive drugs will change your physiologically, and then so this way your body build up the tolerance. Once you stop using it, you will experience this withdrawal symptom. You have craving, you will sweating, you will headache. All these side effects you can see in the when people use marijuana for long term. Okay, and then also for the long term usage of this marijuana have what can cause the schizophrenia. So that is very bad. And then, so that's why we want to understand what is this compound can bring to us. And then, of course, we cannot say there's no medical purpose, medical use. Okay, so that's why we look at this compound as to what can we, how to say, maximize their medical purpose, but minimize their side effect. Okay, so now they say here. So remember, the cannabis is the chemicals derived from the cannabis sativa, and this is a group of compound. One important group is called a cannabinoid. And in this cannabinoid, two very famous no molecule, THC and CBD. Okay, but not only these two, there are others chemicals molecules in this group, cannabinoids group. So such as THCA, CBDA, CBN. Okay, and these compounds over here is very unique. You could they say we always say oh THC concentration more than 0.3%. We say it's marijuana, but we start science research show THCA after heat up. Okay, during the smoking after heat up, THCA can convert to THC. So if your THC concentration is not high, but after smoking, okay, your THC convert to THC, then you have higher concentration of THC. So that is why most of people use marijuana is by smoking. Okay, it's not by injection. Okay, all right. But this doesn't mean it's unique. So we shouldn't use marijuana. That's one thing. But just let you know why there's different way of the intake of these things. Okay, and then so today we are not focused on all these other molecule of the cannabinoid. We want to focus on these two main compounds. We know where the people study, they love to kind of focus on these two because most dramatic psychological effect and pharmacological effect. So we want to focus on these two. It's THC and CBD. Okay, THC and CBD, if you look at the chemical structure, you will say, oh, they exact the same molecular formula. Okay, they are exact the same. Only difference is really is their structure. For THC, they have cyclic rings, and then for the CBD, they have hydroxyl group. So you can see they only have these small changes. But just because their pharmacological effect is dramatic different. Okay, so THC show the psychoactive effect, and then they can cause anxiety, paranoia, and also they have affecting your cognition. But CBD, on the other hand, has a medical purpose, okay, anti-conversion, anti-seizure, okay, and can also used for treat arthritis. And also, well known is CBD antagonist for the THC negative effect. So it's kind of like CBD is antidote of the THC. So we can see, wow, they have the same chemical formula. Just because there's small change in their structure, they have a different pharmacological effect. So this is something we study in the medicine field, the pharmaceutical that we study. It really is, you need to understand the structure and activity relationship, SAR, because it changes structure just small part, but they will change the activity dramatically in our body. So this is one good example. And then and also right now it's in the marijuana, we say, oh, there's a higher content of the THC, less a lot of the CBD. But one thing is nowadays, okay, we find out that the cannabis, okay, marijuana seized by DEA, I think the drugs enforcement agency, but they get from the street, from the whoever, okay, they find, okay, in the 1995, about how long ago, 20 something, 25 years ago, the marijuana like got okay has less THC, so THC and CBD ratio in 1995, this seized by the DEA, only ratio is 14:1. But nowadays, in 2018, the marijuana seized by DEA, the THC and CBD ratio is 58:1. So wow, and if you look at number, the CBD didn't change, but THC concentration increased dramatically. So this means it's the marijuana people use it, they really intake a lot more THC now. And we know the THC has very bad side effect, can cause addiction. Okay, so that's why it's become problematic now. They are not focused on their medical use, they focus on the psychoactive effect. Okay, so then, so before I realized, so we know the structure, they are the same, only the formula is the same, but structure is different, they cause a different pharmacological effect. Okay, so for the pharmacology and toxicology study, we always need to know for each chemical, we need to know something is called ADM. A, absorption. Okay, how fast this chemical can be absorbed into our body. B, distribution, where they distribute to, because they need to go to the organ, or where, to the brain, to the liver, to different organ to cause the toxicity or cause the pharmacological effect. ADM, metabolism, how fast they can metabolize, and then this metabolize is toxic or not. Then E, description. So that is for pharmacologists and toxicologists. We all study this kind of drug profile. And then here, I want to give you that profile here too. For the cannabis, okay, we know that if people smoke marijuana, this THC can be detected in the plasma with a second. So it can really go into our body very, very fast. And then, but one thing is half-life only 2 hours. So that means it's in your plasma. The THC only stay in your plasma for 2 hours. So you can say, oh yes, after 2 hours, this THC is gone, it's out of my body. No. It's just out of your plasma, but not out of your body, still in your body. Okay, like because this THC and CBD are very lipophilic. Lipophilic means they love lipids, they love fat. Okay, they love fat. That means they will go into in the plasma. Then they distribute to the fat tissue, to adipose tissue. It stay there. They store in your adipose tissue in your body. Okay, and then so it's kind of like they disappear from your plasma, from your blood, but they go into your body, distribute, and stay there. And then, of course, some drugs will go to your liver, go to your metabolism organs, and then they, after metabolized, okay, they will form something hydroxyl THC. Hydroxy THC is much more hydrophilic. Hydro is water, philic, like, so like water. So they will become a little bit more water soluble. So this way they can excrete it out to our body to the urine. Okay, and then because it's only small amount will be metabolized at once, so it takes really long time to get rid of it from our body. So that means absorption is fast, distribution is fast because they go to lipids, go to a fat tissue. They metabolize, yes, but take time because this kind of like only small amount go to the metabolism organ. Then excrete it out can take a long time, 2 weeks. Okay, and then since you smoke it, because it will stay in our body long time, so you have higher chance to develop the schizophrenia because it's in your body. You can't expose to this chemical for 2 weeks before that. All right, so that is why it's a yes. You can maybe use it for 1 day, but it will stay in your body for more than 2 weeks. Okay, so then the next, all right. So yes, all right, they cause this kind of the psychological effect. They have an effect on the medical purpose. But how they do, right? How they do to your body? Our body has one system called the endocannabinoid system. Okay, it's just some kind of like a receptor you have in your body, and this is one of the system has a receptor called the cannabinoid receptor. Okay, and then the cannabinoid receptor 1, they can find it in the neuron. Cannabinoid receptor 2, CB2, can find in the immune cells and also microglia cell. Microglia cell also find this in your brain, in central nervous system. And then, so you can see that's why this drug has very high impact in your nervous system. Okay, and we know the THC can interact with these receptors and then to trigger the subsequent effect. Okay, in this activate this system and cause a psychoactive response. But one thing we know we find is the CBD does not bind to the CB1R and CB2 receptor. So, oh yeah, the THC binds to, but CBD does not. So why? Okay, the study show. Okay, what the study show, THC, yes, bind to a receptor. Okay, so but CBD is not binding to it, but they change the conformation of receptor. So THC cannot bind to it. Yeah, so that's why the CBD did not bind to the receptor, but has effect in this system. And then that's also the reason why CBD can be an antidote, antagonist for THC, because they block the THC bind to this receptor. So now we found the chemical structure, then we go to a pharmacological effect, our physiological response, right? Okay, so this is the one endocannabinoid system affected by THC CBD. But my research now is going down to my research. And my research, I love to focus on is dopaminergic system. Okay, and then so the cannabinoid, this cannabis, no, they have effect. THC, CBD has effect in our dopaminergic system. They THC can increase dopamine into the system. Okay, and then CBD can block it. Okay, so then before I want to go forward, because this is the dopaminergic system, is my main research focus. Okay, and I want to go tell you about what is the dopamine. I know you probably heard about like already. You have higher dopamine, you will feel happier. So this is the system we call is the reward circuit. So it's kind of like if you're doing something good, your dopamine release, and next because your brain will sense remember it. So next time you want to do the same thing again, and then because you know this will bring up to the good memory, and then so dopamine is the neurotransmitter in our brain. And then you can find that in the substantia nigra and all the VTA region. So the substantia nigra is very important for our movement. So that's why you can see that some like a Parkinson's disease patient, that most of the patient has the degenerate, the dopaminergic neuron. Degenerate means the neuron die. Okay, so if the neuron die because the dopamine is very important involving movement, cognition, pressure, and motivation. So if the dopaminergic neuron die, then you don't have that ability to control your movement, and that will become the day will develop Parkinson's disease. Okay? And then so here I want to say, oh, the dopamine we all know, increased dopamine will feel good. And what can increase dopamine? Food, sex, gambling, and drugs. Of course, drug has the strongest effect. Okay. And then so that's why a lot of people go for the drugs, because make it stronger immediately, that kind of the satisfaction. Okay. But problem is because there is the tolerance will build up, okay, during this process. That means it's the first time you feel happy, okay, and then but the second time you use the drugs, we won't feel the same way. You probably, oh, I probably need to take more to have the same level of the happiness. So you want to take more, okay, same way of feel good. So the third time you take even more because you have built up that tolerance. You are always thinking about more and more to get same level of the happiness or the satisfaction. So that is because you are physiologically, this receptor has to be desensitized or have some changes over there. So that's why all the drugs, they have very big side effect is we body will build out a tolerance. And also because this tolerance, once stop using it, we will have withdrawal symptoms. And then, okay. So there's the dopaminergic system here. What is normally the dopaminergic neuron do is for the graph A. You can see if normally the dopaminergic, once they're excited, they will release the dopamine. Okay, and then dopamine will go into this space called the synapse. And once going to the synapse, they will bind to a dopamine receptor. And once the dopamine receptor, they will trigger the next neuron excited or trigger the next neuron activated. And once they bind the receptor, they done their job. They need to be going back to the presynaptic neuron. And then how they go back? They cannot just go in there swimming back. No, there is a way to go back. It's go to this yellow molecule, okay, yellow molecule is dopamine transporter. Dopamine transporter can reuptake that blue dots, dopamine, back into the presynaptic. So this way, your dopamine won't stay in the synapse for too long, because if for long stay in the synapse, that means they have a higher chance to bind to receptor again, keep firing, keep feeling good. Okay, so that is not good for our body. So the dopamine transporter has that function to reuptake this blue dot dopamine back. And then when they reuptake the dopamine, this dopamine transporter yellow molecule will go inside because it will carry everything in. Okay, so they won't stay in the cell surface. For the cocaine and amphetamine, we know that these two abusive drugs can have effect on the dopamine transporter, DAT. Okay, how they do? Cocaine is called a dopamine transporter blocker. It's this triangle. This triangle will bind to this yellow dopamine transporter, bind to it, so block it. So your dopamine in the synapse has no dopamine transporter, no door open up for them to go back into the presynaptic. So they stay in the synapse. Okay, and then also because the cocaine blocks the dopamine transporter, so this protein will stay on the surface, won't move, stay there. Okay, just no function. Amphetamine, on the other hand, is this red dot. Look very similar to dopamine. Okay, and then they're competing with this dopamine for the dopamine transporter to go into the cell, go back into the cell. So that's why your dopamine has a competitor. It's very difficult to go back in, so we'll stay in the synapse for a longer time. So both of these will make the dopamine stay in the synapse longer time, but because one is blocker, one is competitor. Okay, so now my question for over here is, this is the one I studied, is can THC and CBD affect dopamine transporter cell surface expression? Okay, so that is my question, because it's like cocaine. Okay, cocaine will make the dopamine transporter stay on the cell surface, block it. Okay. So then let's go to the next one. So I use the cells called a PC12 cell. I treat them with the THC different concentration, 10, 25, 50 microgram per ml. And then I conduct the immunocytochemistry reaction. Okay, and I to see where is dopamine transporter? Does that increase on the cell surface or not? So my results show the yellow, not yellow, sorry, yes, it's green. Green, the bottom panels, the green color means it's dopamine transporter. And you can see increase the THC, go to the right side, increase the THC concentration from 10 to 50. There's less of the dopamine transporter on the cell surface. So this means, okay, yes, THC is kind of like lower the dopamine transporter on the cell surface. Okay, so, okay, yes, all right. So that means it's less dopamine transporter on cell surface. They cannot take up the dopamine. Dopamine will stay in the synapse longer time. Then the next, I want to confirm it by the Western blot analysis. And then, so I do the dopamine transporter cell surface expression detection by Western blot analysis. It also shows, oh yes, increase the dose concentration of THC can decrease dopamine transporter on the cell surface. So this is confirmed, okay, by two different methods. Then, how about CBD? The CBD, I treat a cell with the same concentration, 10, 25, 50 microgram per ml of the CBD, and I looked at the dopamine transporter on the cell surface using the immunocytochemistry assay. And I found, oh, they go when the bottom panel, let's go to the right side, increase the concentration. There's more green color. So that means, oh, dopamine transporter stay on the cell surface more. If we increase the concentration, increase this dopamine transporter on the cell surface. Then, okay, so I didn't have the Western blot analysis yet. So that's one thing I'm doing right now. If you future join my lab, you are welcome to do this kind of assay. And then, So the next, I also have AC, and doing this is using they affecting the dopamine transporter function, because we said, okay, protein is not there, or maybe increase is there, but they change the function? Do they blocking it, make them protein cannot reuptake dopamine? So I do the functional assay too. Okay, so the THC we show is the red color line is a control. If we treat the cell with the THC, no THC, the red color, you can see the dopamine transporter can reuptake and go back down to normal. The x-axis is the time, okay? And then, so you can see with the THC, this peak is disappear. So that means with THC, they inhibiting the dopamine transporter reuptake function. So this kind also consistent with what we saw in immunocytochemistry and Western blot analysis. CBD, on the other hand, is biphasic effect. So that means is, yes, you can see the red is control, no CBD at all. But with the blue color, the 1 microgram per ml, the bottom one, okay, this can see the 1 microgram per ml somehow decrease this dopamine transport reuptake. But higher concentration, 5 microgram and 10 microgram per ml, is kind of enhanced. Okay, so this is something we need to go further to study why this biphasic effect. Low dose is inhibition and high dose enhanced. Okay, and then for the immunocytochemistry study, CBD concentration is from 10 to 50. So it's kind of consistent with my study of immunocytochemistry. I just need to expand a little bit more to lower concentration for the immunocytochemistry to see what happened to 1 microgram per ml. Okay. So over here, the conclusion is THC and CBD, they can alter the dopamine transporter cell surface expression. So THC is decreased and dopamine transporter on the cell surface, but CBD is increased. Okay, and then for the functional assay, THC is lower dopamine transporter uptake, but the CBD showed a biphasic effect. Okay, so now this is so far I have, and still there's a lot more I need to do. And then for the future, I also want to focus on is whether THC and CBD can bind to this protein directly. Okay, because now so far we just know they change the expression, they have effect on the functional dopamine transporter function, but doesn't mean they bind to protein directly. So this will be next one. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on I need to do, and then this is all the student the work, the student study, the student data. So if you come join, let me know, and we can focus on this. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me and then listen to my research. And so if you have any questions.
Demi, I have a question. How long did it take students to get all this data?
This is the students, they getting the data is very fast, but problem is the training. So the student I always training from beginning is a cell culture. I do a lot of the in vitro cell culture study, and then so the training is beginning and it's training how to do the cell culture and how to do the autoclave and then how to pass the cells, freeze the cell. So that part, and actually cell culture technique is very good because a lot of job, they just want people to know how to do the cell culture. So after that, we will start conducting the chemical treatment plan, and then we are focused on this assay training, the Western blot analysis, immunocytochemistry. So I usually focus on is the summertime. I spend intensive time with the students. It's almost every day, 4 days a week or 5 days a week. Get that, the technique ready, and then going to the semester time. I know your student is very busy, but we already have techniques, so we start collecting the data. So usually probably half year. It's about probably half year you will start collecting some data. That's what I would say. Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
All right, so I have another question. I'm hoping that students, whoever is muted right now, would you? Okay. All right. The second question is how you mentioned that. Okay. You mentioned that THC decreases the amount of dopamine transporter on the cell surface. How do you think it does that? Do you have any idea how that works, or how would you figure it out?
Yes, that is very interesting. Why we know the dopamine transporter cell surface is regulated by different kind of mechanism. The one is the protein kinase A pathway, and also there's another way is about the cytoskeleton, how the affecting the cytoskeleton structure. Because dopamine transporter, in order to go into the cells, we call the trafficking. Okay, the dopamine transporter trafficking. And the trafficking is affecting by different signaling pathway, the protein kinase A pathway, and also the cytoskeleton. Do they have a very good cytoskeleton network? So there is also thing about the calcium modulating kinase pathway also involved. So you can see this study, we understand the chemical structure, then we move to the biochemical assay, molecular biology assay over here. So that is some 2As that we may go forward to see about how the dopamine transporter trafficking mechanism has been affected by this two THC and CBD. And this is a lot of study need to go and to dip into it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I have to write a paper on your Zoom meeting. And is it possible how will I get a recording to reference it later so that I could write a paper?
Okay, so I think the list kind of things you can do is about how THC and the CBD effect on the human body. So I can share with you some references I have if you need, and they just send me an email, okay? And then also, I think the Dr. Sanguineti has recorded this presentation, so she can share with you about this recording too.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a copy of the recording too, but I'm not a student at John Jay.
No problem. Yes, I know the Dr. Sanguineti, she will share with, I think, the Dr. Molina, and he can also share. And also, I know that Dr. Sanguineti may have your email address too. Okay, so.
Hello, Professor?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I also need, I want to write I'm a student at BCC, so I want to write a paper about this Zoom meeting. So how will I get I need some information because I joined the class I was late, you know.
Okay, no problem. We Dr. Sanguineti record this presentation, so you can listen to that. But you also can send me an email. So let me put my email into the chat, so you can email me. So if I have any references, I will share with you. Okay, right. And then also I think is also welcome to us about the research here if you're interested in, because for the marijuana and him, there's a lot of study you need to do. I think you probably heard about that. It's legalized in New York State. Okay, and people start using it, but is this safe to use? Something we need to really think and be a scientist. We need to find out this fact and then educate people. Okay, so I think this is very interesting research. If you guys interested in, let me know. Okay, I share my email address in the chat, so you can copy it and send me an email. And I know Dr. Sanguineti, she will also share the recording with everyone.
Professor, I have a question, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the street marijuana, that contains THC, is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
the marijuana has high content of THC, and also you need to know different source of the marijuana also have different contents. Some is higher, some is lower, but most of them they have much higher THC concentration than CBD. CBD is a good one because that can have the antipsychotic effect. They can use to treat the cancer. Chemotherapy has some side effect about you feel nauseous. This CBD is good, but not THC. Yes.
Right. Okay. So right. So you said that a few years ago, the THC the strength of THC was not as potent as it is today. So
Yes.
what is the cause of that? Do you know what is the reason for that?
The one is like right now, they kind of try to grow this plant. They kind of know, okay, this plant, they have higher concentration of THC, so they start growing it. So in the field, the people
Oh.
growing it, they try to grow like weight. And then I know there is some state, the Colorado, they try to grow this kind of marijuana plant with high content of CBD, because they know the CBD actually is good, has some like the medical purpose. So they want to grow high content of CBD but not THC. So it's all depends on how you grow it. Yeah, and then also what kind of the source, where you get that from. And then, so yes, the 1995, the THC content in this marijuana is much lower. Now it's much higher. And so that's why
So okay, I'm sorry. So if it's much higher and the THC is dangerous, why is it legal now? Why are they legalizing this drug if it's so dangerous?
yes, but that's why it's legalized, but FDA did not approve it for the medical use. You need to know the differences here. It's like a cigarette. The cigarette is legalized, but it's not. Or the FDA did not approve this marijuana for medical use. They only approve the pure CBD to use for medical purpose. Pure THC have some, they make into the drug to have some effect. So FDA does not approve marijuana. It's only the legislature legalize it. It's like a cigarette. You can smoke a cigarette, but most people know cigarette is not good. Right? So that way, they kind of feel like, okay, people already start using it. And then, so if we blocking it, it causes more problem because people will go to the black market, get it. And so why not just legalize it? And then so they can put less people into the jail, because if the people is not legalized, we have a lot of people just kind of carry it, use it, and will go into the jail. So that is why I think it's they need to know about this more before they really legalize it.
I
So,
understand. Thank you so much.
no problem. I know a lot of people confused. They say, yes, they use for in the medical purpose, for the medical usage, but why? Right? It's different. In the medical field, it's not legalized. We cannot use the FDA did not approve it. You cannot
Wow.
use it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
That's
But
very
legalized,
interesting.
yes. So that's why I think this is not, it's very good to understand more. I provide the research I'm doing now is I provide all this kind of psychological, the toxic effect, understand the mechanism. So all this kind like FDA, maybe the EPA, DEA, they use this data to make the policy decision. So that is our scientist job. So because a lot of like the study I have about the pesticides, they may link to later on develop Parkinson's disease.
Right.
So this compound, I study the EPA ban it because after there's so many research, a lot of the scientists done from different area, they know this too toxic to be used. So they ban it. And then there is still compound I study. They didn't ban it yet because we don't have enough evidence to provide to the EPA, and then they can ban it. And that is why there's a lot of chemical. A lot of people say, no, it's toxic, it's toxic, it's toxic. But government still allow people to use it because not enough scientific data. And that is your job, really. We want people to come to, you need to study it. We need to provide this evidence so they can ban it or maybe educate people, don't use it.
Right.
So this marijuana study also is a way I want to educate people. Don't use it because we don't really fully understand. You put yourself in risk. And that is why it's very dangerous now. And people just keep using it because they think, oh, it's legalized.
Yes.
And so I can use it freely. No. Yeah. So that's why I say, if you're interested in this, come join my lab and let's do it. I also got one instrument. It's very cool. It's called the smoking machine. So
Oh.
yeah, I'm not a smoker. So we have the machine can light a cigarette and then collect the cigarette smoke and into the solution, and I treat the cell with that solution to want to see the toxic effect. So there's a lot interesting in science. So that's why you guys here, I'm so happy you joined this meeting, because I talked to the beginning, I said, the career of your future is in your hand. And then
Yes,
we provide this opportunity for you. I want you to get it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
then, yeah, so email us. Gabby is great. She will give you a lot of information about how to transition from the BCC to John Jay, and we are here to help you to support students. Okay, so
Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
yes, I'm happy. I want you one day come join me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Great, great. So maybe I give that back to the Gabby. So I take you too much time. I hope you. Yeah.
All right. So
Mm-hmm.
Should I send you my email? I don't know if you've seen it.
I will check it later. I didn't check my email yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I
No
want
problem. Don't
to,
worry.
yeah, I want to reiterate that this is being recorded. I will upload it to the YouTube for the program that I will be talking about today. I'll also share with Dr. Molina. So you have multiple ways. I will show you how to get it. So please stay patient. You will get the recording. You will have access to it. And if anything happens, reach out to either me or Dr. Molina, and I will share with you the link. That will not happen until the end of the day today. So expect something by the end of the day today, not immediately after, because it takes some time for the recording to process. And with that, I will transition to my talk, which is forensic science at John Jay College. So before I start, my name is Dr. Gabriella Sanguineti, and I am the Research and Outreach Coordinator for the Program for Research Initiatives in Science and Math. And part of my job is to help students who are interested in coming to John Jay and doing the type of research that you just heard about actually do so. So today I will be giving you an overview of forensic science and the science or forensics major at BCC. I will talk about the transition to John Jay College as a forensic science major, the career opportunities you can have as forensic scientists, and the individual development plan, which you will use to plan for your career. While I say that, I have to provide a couple caveats. The first is that I am not an
And then when
academic
you're
advisor,
finished,
which
just
means
take a few minutes to read it.
that
And do
while I
not,
can give you general, information about the courses you need to take at BCC to be able to transfer to John Jay. I am not the final say, so you should definitely check with an advisor. The second is that while I am talking about forensic science at John Jay we have other science majors as well. We have cell molecular biology and we have toxicology. And much of what I'm talking about today also applies for those majors. So if you have any questions about that, I can address them. You feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat and I will address it when I see it. So forensic science is a type of detective work. I'm launching a poll. Let me know what you think. Yes or no? All right, a lot of you are saying yes. Nobody has really said no. So to share the results, that's what you see. All of you said yes. So that is not always the case. Forensic science is a type of science that uses research methods and statistical analysis to analyze the evidence that is used in a court of law. So the forensic science degree will help you will prepare you to work at crime scenes. And I'll have another poll. What do you think? Yes or no? Okay. We have some yeses, we have some nos. This poll is completely anonymous, so you can vote what you think. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so sharing the results. About a third of you say no, and the rest of you say yes. Which is good, because some of you are right and some of you are close. The forensic science bachelor's degree does not prepare you to work at crime scenes or do detective work. It prepares you to do lab work. You are training to be a scientist and using these applied scientific methods to analyze evidence for a court of law. And being a crime scene investigator and a forensic scientist is not the same thing. The crime scene investigator is the person in charge of the case. They are responsible to document the scene and identify, process, and collect the physical evidence. Once the crime scene investigator has collected this physical evidence, just jumping forward to 2 slides. But before I jump over to that 2 slides, to become a crime scene investigator in New York City, this isn't the case for everywhere. But in New York City, you would have to become an NYPD Cadet Corps. You would email cadet@nypd.org if you're interested in doing that, because you would need to become a police officer and rise the ranks to become a crime scene investigator. So like I mentioned, the crime scene investigator collects the evidence that will be used later on by the forensic scientist who does lab work and analyzes this evidence for the court of law. So they work together, but they are not the same person. And to become a forensic scientist, you would have to major in something like biology, chemistry, physics, or a related field like forensic science. I have one last poll question for you, and it is, I enjoyed my forensic science class in high school. That's why I'm majoring in forensic science. I'll get to do forensic science as soon as I start studying it in college. Yes or no? A few of you are saying yes, and a few of you, most of you are saying no. All right, so let me share the results. The majority of you said no, and I will say that the majority of you are right. So in the first 2 years of your bachelor's degree, you take math, science, biology, and physics courses. And these are the foundational courses you will need to prepare for your forensic science courses. You start taking applied forensic science courses at John Jay your 3rd and 4th year. So it's sort of like the sequence for CJ for science, science for forensics majors looks like this. So the first year, you take biology 1 and 2, general chemistry 1 and 2, pre-calculus and calculus 1. Your second year, you take organic chemistry 1 and 2, calculus 1 and 2, I mean calculus 2, physics 1 and 2, and quantitative analysis. And I want to mention that most of these courses are the same courses that you would take if you were to major as a cell molecular biology major or in toxicology. And these are the same courses that students at John Jay take in forensic science, the ones that are enrolled in the forensic science major. One thing I want to point out is that you would complete the 2 years at BCC, and within those 2 years, you also have to take quantitative analysis, which is something that's good for you at BCC because BCC actually offers quantitative analysis. It's important for you to take this course before you transition to John Jay because otherwise it delays you an entire year. And if you're unable to take the course at John Jay, BCC, you can definitely take it at John Jay because we offer in the spring, the fall, and the summer sessions. So once you transition to John Jay, that would be your third year, you will take instrumental analysis 1 and 2, biochemistry, statistics, physical chemistry, law and evidence, and the introduction to criminalistic toxicology or mole bio, which are the tracks in forensic science. I will talk a little bit more about those. And then your fourth year, you do a research or laboratory internship, and you take your advanced criminalistic toxicology or molecular biology courses. So once you get to John Jay, you would have to select a track, and there are 3 tracks: criminalistics, toxicology, and molecular biology. Criminalistics has to do with firearms, tool marks, trace evidence such as fibers, hair, soil, wood, gunshot residue, and pollen. So in a criminalistics track, you will learn how to analyze this type of evidence. In the toxicology track, you would do the kind of work that Dr. Cheng was talking about today. In addition to that, you would be identifying substances in powders, pills, liquids, and bodily fluids. And then molecular biology is all about DNA profiles and evidence. So you can think about the types of evidence you can get from genealogical databases like 23andMe, which have been used, well, not necessarily 23andMe, but such as 23andMe, that have been used to apprehend suspects based on DNA evidence left at the crime scene. So some requirements to transition to John Jay through the CUNY Justice Academy for Science for Forensic students. The first is that you have to take quantitative analysis before transferring to John Jay. Bronx Community College offers quantitative analysis, so you can take it there, or you can take it the summer before you transition to John Jay, or the semester before. A failure to do so will delay you an entire year because it's a requirement for instrumental analysis. And without quantitative analysis, you cannot take instrumental 1, which is required for instrumental 2. And those are only offered in the fall and the spring, respectively. The second is that you have to maintain a 2.5 science and math GPA while you are at your school. And that means not your general GPA, your overall GPA, but just the GPA for your science and math courses. General Bio 1 and 2, General Chemistry 1 and 2, Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, Physics 1 and 2, Quantitative Analysis, Pre-Calculus, Calculus 1, and Calculus 2. So some things that you can do to make sure that you can transition to John Jay are go to office hours. Every professor is required to have at least 1 hour of office hours every week. You can go to academic support services such as the tutoring and supplemental instruction offices and the writing centers. You can seek for help in offices of student success such as personal counseling, health services, early child care center, and disability services. You can get involved in your campus. So that means joining clubs, organizations, and societies, or joining an athletic team. And finally, asking for help early and often. So if you are stuck in anything, you should definitely ask your advisors, your professor for help. So the good thing about the CUNY Justice Academy is that it allows you to transfer to John Jay without having to put in an application to transfer. So your transfer is automatic as long as you fulfill the requirements that I listed before. So once you get to John Jay, you have all these student resources that I just mentioned at John Jay, which include the academic support and tutoring, wellness and support services, career services and planning, extra and co-curricular opportunities, student emergency assistance. And you can also get student tuition and book assistance and support for services such as accessibility, immigration, Children's Center, which is for geared towards students that have children and need childcare, military and veteran services, Urban Male Initiative, and the Women's Center for Gender and Justice. Another good thing about John Jay as a science major is that you have access to this Math and Science Resource Center. And that means that for most of your science and math courses, you will have tutoring, you will have support. And you have research and special opportunities such as the honors program, the Office for Student Research and Creativity, and Prism. So today I will be talking a little bit more about Prism. Prism stands for the Program for Research Initiatives in Science and Math, and it includes 3 programs under one umbrella. The first one is CJA, which is the one that I was just talking about. The second is the Junior Scholars Program, which is an academic support program, and I will tell you a little bit more about that, and the Undergraduate Research Program right now. So the Junior Scholars Program is an academic support program, and it offers tutoring, professional development workshops, academic advisement, one-on-one professional advice, help with job and graduate school applications, and reimbursements for any exams that you would need to take to go to graduate school, as well as any amount that you would have to pay to apply for graduate school. If you complete all of these requirements, you get a $300 stipend to do something that you should be doing anyway. So you get money to go to tutoring and go to workshops and work on your professional development. Then we have the Undergraduate Research Program, which is the program that we've been alluding to throughout this entire presentation when Dr. Cheng was talking and now. This is the opportunity for you to do research with a faculty mentor at John Jay. There are workshops with graduate schools and alumni that will help you decide if you want to go to graduate school, and if so, what you would want to do. You have one-on-one professional advice, help with job and graduate school applications, and just like the Junior Scholars, the reimbursements. Because the Undergraduate Research Program is a little bit more involved, you get $1,200 a semester to do research. So the stipends, you get the $300 at the Junior Scholars Program and the about $1,200 more or less, depending on our funding, for the Undergraduate Research Program every semester. So after you graduate from John Jay, and this is something that applies to all science majors, you can get a job, you can get a position as a lab technician, and you would get paid around, that's something you can get with a bachelor's degree. You could do it as a forensic scientist or as a general scientist. And you can also, while you're doing this, you would work towards the foundational stages of research and development in scientific skills and investigation. So being part of the Undergraduate Research Program can definitely help you land a job as a lab technician, especially because it helps you work on your oral and written communication skills and shows that you can manage multiple tasks to meet deadlines. So what else can you do with a degree in forensic science? You can get a master's, you could get a doctoral degree, but something you should know that if you decide to keep studying after your bachelor's, you will not only get more responsibility as you get a higher degree or a terminal degree, your earnings will also go up. So for a forensic scientist, science technician, you would get about $59,000 a year. Whereas for a microbiologist, you would make about $75,000 a year, which is a lot of money. And as you move on, you can get a master's in science, master's in art. You can go to physician's assistant school, which is a health career. You get a PhD, which, by the way, if you're interested in research and working in a lab, a PhD is a good option if you are curious and want to learn more about something that hasn't been studied before. And PhDs in science are free. You don't have to pay for them. And they give you a stipend. So they pay for your tuition and they give you money to live. Last year, our last round of students that got into PhD programs were getting offered about $41,000 to $42,000 a year with health insurance. So it's a pretty good deal. And PhD programs are around 5 to 6 years. You could also go to medical school, you could go to dental school, you could go get your EDD, which is an education degree, or your doctorate in public health. And as you can see, the more education you get, the more money you get. So medical scientists get $88,000 a year. And these are averages. That means that you could be making a lot more in this. Biochemists, $94,000 a year, and physicians and surgeons up to $208,000 a year. So some of the samples you can pursue in forensic science. Some of the careers you can pursue in forensic science include being a research scientist, where you would be looking at gunshot residue analysis, where you would be determining the different components of gunshot residue. You could look at firearms, which is validating the patterns using computers to get more precise measurements, and ballistic imaging databases. Constructing these ballistic imaging databases to help others establish the accuracy of a shooting incident reconstruction. You go into toxicology, which is what Dr. Cheng is doing. You could go into forensic biology, DNA databases, DNA analysis, friction ridge analysis, which is finger marks, paint and glass analysis, which is where you manufacture paint, or where you keep up with the manufacture of paint and you can characterize them, and even seize drugs to come up with a faster, more reliable way to identify and test these drugs. Or you don't have to work as a forensic scientist. You can work in all these different fields. And as you see here, you can make a lot of money. You could, and still have that degree in science. You could go into conservation, you can go into biotechnology, you could go into teaching, you could go into research administration and not work in the lab. You can go into science and medical writing or science outreach and not work in a lab either. You can go into entrepreneurship, where your earning potential is unlimited. So having a science degree definitely sets you up for success, and coming to John Jay will help you figure out which of these fields is right for you and how you can get there, while getting the support and even a financial incentive to do this. So if you're researching potential careers, you can go, if you want something specific to forensic science, you can go to the American Academy of Forensic Sciences. You can go to the Chartered Society of Forensic Science, the American Society of Crime Lab Directors. Here are the websites. You can go, if you want some more general information about careers, if you're into nutrition or psychology or whatever it is that you're into, I recommend you check out the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and ownitonline.org. So how do you decide which career path is best for you? Well, this is where the Individual Development Plan, or IDP, comes in. An individual development plan is a systematic approach for you to figure out what your career aspirations are and how you're going to get there. And it answers 3 questions. Where am I now? Where do I want to be 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And how am I going to get there? And it's an iterative process. You can start by assessing your skills, values, and interests, the things that you're good at, the things that you like, and the things that are most important to you. Or start with career exploration using some of the websites that I mentioned, like the US Bureau of Labor Statistics or ownitonline.org. And this first step is interchangeable. You could do either one first and the other one second, or the other way around. And the purpose of this is for you to identify things or goals that you want to work on, and set these goals up, a concrete plan to obtain or improve your skills so you can get to where you want to go. Once you set goals, you implement the plan. You go for it. If your goal is to get an A+ in calculus, what do you need to do to get that A+ in calculus? You need to go to class, you need to do your homework, you need to go to office hours, you need to do the tutoring. Go to tutoring. So you list those things up, you list how often you're going to do this, and what the outcomes will be if you do this. And then once you're done, you evaluate and adjust. So every goal should be about 2 to 3, you should be revisiting your goals 2 to 3 or 4 times a year. So about every 3 to 4 months. And you figure out what worked, what didn't work, and what you can change, if anything. And from there, you can go back to self-assessments, career exploration, or setting goals. And as you're doing this, it's very important that you also think about the people who will help you get there. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can go to our website, jj.cuny.edu /current Prism-students and look for the Prism individual development plan and start working on it and see what works for you. And then you can schedule an appointment with me to discuss your IDP and any other concerns you may have about transitioning to John Jay as a forensic science student. Another thing is that I am not the only person that can help you. You can also reach out to Dr. Molina. You can reach out to Dr. Cheng. You can reach out to your professors. You can ask your friends for help. You can ask your family to keep you accountable in your goals. So as you're doing this, definitely think about your support system and the people who are there that are willing to and can help you. And if you have any questions, you can ask now. You can also email me at my email that's listed here, and I will answer any questions you may have. So with that, anybody else, any questions I can answer, concerns, comments, critiques that you would want addressed?
Okay, yeah, all right. I'm sorry, I just saw the Dr. Molina's comment in the chat. I will show my last slide, my conclusion over here. So in the meantime, you can still ask questions to us, Gabby, Dr. Sanguineti, about how to transition from BCC to John Jay. Okay, but in the meantime, I will share my screen about that slide. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that chat. Okay, so here is a slide about my talk, my research, and then so just for you. And so if you have any question, you can ask Dr. Sanguineti, and I think it's very important for my experience for the student. You make appointment with us to talk about how should you prepare yourself to transition from the BCC to the John Jay. And we have a lot, we just do assessment. We have very good outcome about the student finish programs and then also go into the field they want. So now is the time, really, is the time you start thinking about what you want to do next.